Good morning and welcome to day 2 of YCS Bochum 2018. We started yesterday morning with 1,951 players and now it's just down to 444 for day 2 of this competition. Still sounds like a very large regional if you ask me.
Yeah, it's pretty big.
We're going to have some of the most high-profile players in competition today. We have players like Georgior still in competition, Samir Bashir, the reigning European champion, still in the field. Lorenzo Santoni, if I remember correctly, was among the top tables.
Yeah.
And the list just goes on. We're going to have some of these guys in the coverage later on today. It's going to be a very fine line today to, on the one hand, try and show you interesting decks. And on the other hand, we still have the issue of trying to pick some high-profile players.
Yeah, exactly.
And sometimes we can actually do both. In this case, not. We have Tomas Tuvillo, who is one of our resident judges, who's usually working as a judge at these events. He's playing this weekend with World Chalice.
Yeah, he's been on this World Challenge train ever since it came out, all the way since Rimini. He's been going on and on about it.
He likes the deck. He really likes the deck.
Yeah.
And he's not the only player that is doing well with World Chalice.
No, we saw another one, didn't we?
Yeah, and he was also on the top 20 tables or something like that.
Yeah, so this is, as with most day twos, we're picking the bubble matches. So these are the real dream-crushing kind of
they have to win
victories.
to still stay in competition, otherwise they can just go home, basically.
Yeah.
On the other side of the table, we have Georgior's Kotogluo, and he's bringing Trickstar, which we haven't yet seen this in the event. There have been plenty of them around, but they've dodged the feature match table so far, so we might see some of your favorite combo coming out here.
It's going to be interesting. We always say that the Greek players are very, very competitive. I wouldn't be surprised if we see some great plays by him.
Yeah.
They test together as far as I can tell.
Yeah, they have a really great group of players over in Greece.
Speaking of player quality and countries, let's bring up the country breakdown for you guys. Here you can see the initial numbers at the start of the tournament. Obviously Germany with the largest amount of players. And as always, the big question is how did they convert into day 2? So this is what the field looks like at the start of the day.
Wow.
Thomas was making a point yesterday that all the players that are dropping out, many of them are casual players or more casual players. So like you're not losing any of the guys that are likely to win a tournament, even if you're losing a larger number of players. So this was probably encouragement for the Germans that just felt, oh my God, we lost like 1,000 guys.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was something for the guys from the UK. They went down from 79 to 27, so that's roughly 1/3 of the initial number. If you compare that to Italy, who went from 107 down to 54, they just lost half of their players.
Yeah, that's a really fantastic conversion rate from the Italians. We've lost 3/4 of the players, but less than half of the Italian players.
Although to give credit where credit is due to the UK, they were in 5th place at the start of the tournament. Now they are in 3rd place, so they are moving up the ranks, even though they are losing guys. France from 87 down to 22. Netherlands from 100 down to 15, so that's a pretty bad conversion rate, I have to say, I'm afraid.
But many of those will also be quite local. They haven't had to travel so far as a lot of the
yeah,
other people.
exactly. So that's a fair assumption. Greece, on the other hand, didn't even show up in the initial breakdown, and suddenly they are, well, ahead together with Belgium, who had sent 56 players. They just left with 14. Greece, I'm just going to assume it was something like 30 players, even less than that, and they also sent 14 players into day 2. So pretty good conversion rates. Let's have a look at what it looks like regarding the decks. This was at the start of yesterday. We said that we're a bit surprised that the top 3 or 4 decks combined do not make up something like 40% of the field. It goes to show that the format is a lot more open than some players initially thought, and we saw that yesterday in our feature matches. There was a whole lot of variety there. Story's a bit different when you look at it today. The top 4 decks are now making up, well, still not 40% of the field, but they are slowly getting there. They're slowly getting there. So the decks to be expected, Pendulum Magician still in 1st. However, True Draco
Second and third have swapped over here.
Yeah, True Draco's really closing in from 165 down to just 59. That's a much better conversion rate than the 270 Pendulum Magicians that went down to 83.
Yeah.
Trickstar 174 down to 46. So it's roughly the same, I would guess, than Pendulum Magician. Actually, it's better than Pendulum Magician because the gap is closing between them.
To me, I'm a bit unsurprised to see that Pendulum Magician has had a hit on the conversion rate compared to the other top decks. A lot of the players that haven't tested a huge amount for this event will just jump straight onto what is perceived to be the best deck for the tournament. That was absolutely Pendulum Magician going into this event.
Right.
And some of them will come through okay, but it will show the people that haven't done that testing and the theory to determine for themselves that it's the best deck, they might not have the best performance at the event.
It's just like in school. If you don't do your homework,
Yeah, and just copy someone else's.
right. Lights won Zombie Grass from 137 down to 32. And interestingly enough, they are almost head-to-head with Pendulum FTK, which only had 96 players. A much, much better conversion rate there.
We see Paleozoic Frogs have jumped out of the other category.
Right. We were guessing at that yesterday when we saw Eugen Hyde in our round 1 feature match go with Paleozoic Frogs. He said it's a good choice for this weekend. And it seems like a couple of high-profile players have picked that deck and made the transition into day 2.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So this is what the stats are saying. We got 2 interesting decks for this feature match coming up. For World Challenge, we don't have like an expert opinion because nobody was expecting this to pop up at the top tables. However, we do have Joshua Schmidt's thoughts on the other deck that you're going to see in the feature match. So let's bring him on.
Okay, so the Trickstar deck I feel like is one of the weaker decks in terms of power level. Because it really relies on, preventing the opponent from doing what he wants to do by taking his hand away with Reincarnation, or in the best case, of course, the Drawn Lockbird Reincarnation combo, and then in general running a lot of hand traps. Like, Trickstar will not really put out big monsters on their own. They're really just waiting and seeing if they can stop their opponent and then win with a bit of burn damage or with a key scapegoat in the end phase. Which makes it one of the slower decks of the format. Nothing I'm particularly a fan of, but of course anti-meta strategies can still be viable.
So there you had it. That is Joshua's thoughts about this deck. He was, of course, more saying about how is Trickster positioned against the other big decks in the field. How is Trickster positioned against World Chalice?
World Chalice is a deck that goes off really hard on its first turn. It's a combo deck, summons huge numbers of monsters, but they can suffer from drawing a lot of the non-effect monsters. So we see there are 8 vanilla non-effect monsters in this list, which is 20% of the cards in the
almost
deck.
Unheard of. Dino Rabbit maybe was the last time we've seen that.
But the World Chalice deck can suffer to hand traps, particularly if they have a bit of a stumbling start, drawing some brick cards. If they have only one play and it gets hit by a hand trap, they can end on a board that looks like they haven't done anything at all.
Right, and we have learned yesterday, if you can't beat one negation, there's no place in this field for you. All right, we do see some hand traps in Georgior's hand, so this is going to be interesting. Let's not keep you guys waiting any longer. Let's go to the feature match for round number 9. So here we see Tomas on the left in an unfamiliar position. Normally he's the guy who's standing behind the players, sitting right there because he's very often our feature match charge. And on the right we have Georgior Kotogluo. Hope we're not butchering that name. Kotogluo. Oh, you just swallow the G?
It makes a small sound, I think.
But not one you can hear. All right.
You just think about the G. You don't actually
I
say
may be
the
butchering
G.
it as well.
Did you also learn Greek in school?
No. So no, I'm certainly no expert.
Oh, okay. So
that sounded like Tom was telling us.
Yeah, you were speaking from a position of authority. Was my guess, to be honest. All right.
It looks like a glue.
So we have Terraforming, 2 copies, Trickster Candina, Ash Blossom Choice Spring, and Drollend Lockbird. So talk about hand traps for Giorgio's opening hand. However, Thomas is going first, and he's now going to try and assemble that big field that Thomas was hinting at during our pre-match analysis. He's kicking things off with Unexpected Die.
Yes, Thomas may not have the best hand to be kicking things off. We saw he had Evenly Matched and a Kaiju in hand. Typically cards that you associate with a deck set up to go second. Ash Blossom, as we see, shutting down one of the few cards in Thomas's hand that actually does something here. I'm not sure he can play any other card.
No.
He doesn't.
So
he just passes play. So maybe now his evenly matched could come into play if we're looking at it from an optimist's point of view.
Every time we seem to have World Chalice on
Oh, yeah,
the
that's
feature
true.
match table,
That's
they
true.
always seem to just brick.
I have to say World Challenge is one of the decks I'm least impressed with, to be honest, because so far every time we've had them, they
Yeah,
were not
yeah.
doing anything.
See, I've played this deck and I've seen the good fields that it can make, and they're insane.
I think we can say the same thing about the Magical Musketeers, to be honest.
That's true. Yeah.
I think I've never seen, like, every time you guys are defending it left and right, like both Matt and you, and you're like, yeah, I've played this, it can be really good, it can be really good,
Yeah.
but on the stream for some reason it's always choking.
Yeah, I know. Like almost certainly there are times. I'm not saying that every other time I've played it, every other time I've seen it and played it, that it's done great. Just
Yeah,
that we never seem to see the great versions
there is potential.
on the stream. Yeah.
There's potential there, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So now it's almost like Georgior is starting this duel,
Yeah.
thanks to that hand trap that just shut down Tomas completely.
yeah, Georgior gets to play first and has a battle phase.
Yeah, and an additional card.
Although he did have to sacrifice the Ash Blossom
Yeah, so
to
it's
end the
all
previous turn.
balancing out
Yeah.
in one way or the other.
And the evenly matched may balance things a bit the other
Bit more.
direction.
Yeah,
Do you think there is a reason why Tomas didn't set the evenly matched?
He's able to activate it from his hand at the end of the battle phase because he has no other cards.
Ah, fair.
it seems like one of the best reasons.
Yeah. It's a good point.
It's still early. And,
Yeah,
we haven't had that much sleep.
No, we were only here like 9 hours ago.
What, you left the venue? I thought we were sleeping in over here.
But we're going to see Tomas here dropping down to just 600 life points after 3 Licorice connect. The Candina attacks for 1,800 plus 200 from the light stage, and here each Licorice will do a total of 1,800 damage.
Talk about an explosive opening.
Wow.
So
And-
the evenly matched will be needed just for Tomas to stay in the duel. Without it, he would lose the rest of his life points in his draw phase.
Yeah.
And the thing is, he needs to basically win this on his following turn. I mean, Trickstar is not known to not burn through a couple of life points very quickly. Yeah, Georgior doesn't even seem to be like super upset about this.
Well, 600 life points for a Trickstar
Thomas.
player is not actually
It'll be
that hard to take
400
away.
by the end of the draw phase.
Yeah.
So that completely turns off Agent of Creation Venus, if that card is drawn.
Right.
Yeah.
So Georgior is like 600 LP. I eat those for breakfast.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, generally a lot of the time I say, Trickstars, they're all about getting your opponent down to an uncomfortable amount of life points and then burning them a little bit at a time, taking them all the way down to 0. And he's managed to achieve that straight away in his first turn.
And we can see for Tomas, there is no card in his hand, and he draws the Venus, which
Oh,
is completely offline.
That's rough.
just adding insult to injury here.
He's sitting at 400 life, so he can't even summon a single Shine Ball.
I don't know, I've seen that before. On your second turn. Like, yeah, this is a dead card. It's too expensive. 500 LP.
That's super rough.
All Tomas has available to him here is to normal summon that Venus and crash it in.
Yeah, I like those odds.
But he knows that there's a Candina.
There's a Candina waiting, yeah. But where else is he going to go here? Is there are we missing something?
I don't think there's
I mean,
anywhere for him to
Gameciel
go.
is not much help. Exodius is not much help. So Thomas is like, okay, I've seen enough. This is not getting any better. So he's shuffling up, and wow, talk about an explosive beginning from Trickstar here.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the first turn, reducing the life points, which is like 400. That's something.
Yeah, it's the interesting construction on the text of Trickstar Licorice. It's reads as if it's a 1-for-1 trade with a monster on your field for a monster in the hand, but the way that it activates, you have to have a monster on the field to activate the effect in the hand, but it doesn't return as a cost. So if you have multiple copies of the Licorice in your hand, you can line them all up, targeting the same monster on your field, and then they all get summoned, and the monster only returns once, but it doesn't stop you from summoning the other copies in the chain.
Right. And it's so easy to assemble that hand accordingly.
Yeah, Lycoris is actually really strong, and you know the thing with Trickstar is generally if you just block them with just a single monster bigger than all of their Trickstars, then they struggle a little. That's why they play stuff like Eater of Millions to get over that. But Thomas just had nothing, so he was just an open field.
But isn't Trickstar also one of those decks where you need like nerves of steel, because even though they can go very, very high, they can also go very, very low.
Yeah.
How hard is it for your opponent to interrupt the plays of the Trickstar deck?
So Ash Blossom is a very good card for stopping the Trickstars. If you can prevent the terraforming, they don't have access to the field spell. But also Droll and Lockbird. We see with any deck that starts its turn with terraforming, most of the field spells now involve further searches from the deck. So activation of terraforming, if that gets Droll and Locked on resolution, you're sat with a field spell that does nothing and potentially some other cards in your hand that you also can't play.
However, Thomas is not playing any hand traps, if I'm not mistaken. I don't see Droll and Lockbird. No Ash Blossom, so he's just gonna have to watch this. I mean, he does have anti-spell fragrance, so he can stop him, or at least buy himself some time that way.
He also has Chaos Hunter in the side deck, so this is an interesting side against the Trickstar matchup. You can summon it from your hand by discarding a card whenever your opponent special summons a monster. So we see in that previous game, if he'd opened with a Chaos Hunter, when the Lycoris was special summoned to the field, he would be able to discard a card, special summon Chaos Hunter, as 2,500 attack, which is a real big problem for the Trickstar deck.
Right.
On top of that, the effect of Chaos Hunter prevents the opponent from banishing any cards,
Oh yeah.
which turns off
That would have been good.
turns off both effects of Trickstar Reincarnation. Both the banish hand effect and the engrave effect requires it being banished as a cost.
Right.
And it can provide some protection against evenly matched, but in this case it was the Trickstar player that we saw on the receiving end
Yeah.
of the evenly matched.
Absolutely, yeah. And that would have made all the difference. I mean, that was more than 5,000 life points that would have been still on Thomas' side of the field, basically. He wouldn't have lost those with a big blocker. All right, let's see how this goes. It's fair to assume that Thomas wants to go first.
Yeah, I hope that this time he has a bit more in his hand, a bit more gas, cards that will do something for him on the first turn.
Or stop his opponent. Both of those are fine options. We see a lot of spell cards. World Legacy's Heart, World Chalice, Guard Dragon, and Monster Reborn.
We
to be
see Venus in the
precise.
hand. Venus and
Yeah.
Kyoto Waterfront. If he doesn't meet a hand trap here, we're going to really see what the deck can do.
And I think, yeah,
There is no hand trap for Georgior. Yeah, good point.
If you ever wanted a
see World
showcase of World Chalice, this will be it.
Okay, let's not flake
Here we
out.
go.
Let's
Let's
not
get
flake
hyped.
out, Thomas. This is it. This is it. Please do it for all the World Chalice fans around the world.
Yeah. I know that above all else, he's going to be disappointed in himself if he doesn't do it. He's been wanting to see this on the live stream for at least 2 events now.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you have the judges working the live stream, and then they see a creative deck and they have played it in their free time. And they're like, "Oh, this is such a good deck. Just wait and see." And then it doesn't work out, and the judge comes over and he's all disappointed. He's like,
Yeah.
"This deck is much better than what you saw. I'm going to prove it to you someday." And this is that someday.
Yeah, this is that someday.
Finally, he's got this option to do and do as he promised. He's going to show us.
So we see Kyoto Waterfront there. Kyoto Waterfront is the field spell for the kaiju monsters. If it has 3 or more counters, it's able to search the deck for kaijus. And typically, we think of kaijus just as monsters
Like
that
a
tribute your opponents,
Right.
and they sit there. But if you've ever looked at a kaiju monster, they have a big block of effect text. It's not just the ability to special summon it by tributing your opponent's monster. They all have different effects.
Right.
So we might actually see kaiju being summoned to Thomas's side of the field. Particularly Gamasiel has a very strong negation effect.
Mm-hmm.
He'll be able to special summon that potentially with his Saryuya Skulldread.
The card of the weekend. So in case you just tuned in today and you haven't seen yesterday, this card has been splitting heads all weekend because there were a couple of situations where somebody could go for Saryuya. They did, and we were in disagreement. We were like, there was no reason to do
Yeah.
this. You could have ended with an Abyss Dweller and a Naturia Beast, for example. That was one of the extreme examples.
Yeah.
We were like, how is this better? Like, you already have everything on the field that you need. Why would you try and improve your hand now? This game is not about cards in hand. It's about cards on the field. All right.
But
So-
I think here we see a great example of use of Saryuya.
Yeah.
So,
So that's the third time. That's the third time this weekend we've seen a good use of
yeah,
it.
it's a card of highs and a card of lows. Sometimes it's absolutely perfect. We see Thomas hasn't had to commit too much into getting this one out, but if it takes a lot of resources and you're foregoing other plays just to summon it, then
Right.
it's not the right decision.
But here, it only took 1,500 life points, almost. Okay, so where is he going to go from here? What's his final goal for this field?
Is it? I'm trying to remember exactly what Exodius does, but yeah, I was just gonna say, can you reborn the Venus, then play Exodius to put all the shine balls back, and then do that again?
I believe so, yeah. Exodius, when summoned, will return all monsters or all non-effective?
Yeah, I think it's all
monsters. And so
from the graveyard to the deck.
he may not even bother to shuffle in the shine balls here because they're all going to be coming straight back out.
It's funny how it's just like shortcutting its way through that first turn.
But I think Kiwi's very keen to get the round progressing nice and quickly. In game one, we saw him insisting that Georgior doesn't shuffle his deck after playing Terraforming because we're about to see the light stage coming
Yeah.
down anyway.
If you need to know one thing about Kiwi, that's like Kiwi in a nutshell.
Yeah.
It's,
Please make a move.
yeah, it's like a pretty fair description. He's getting bored so quickly when he's watching these matches sometimes. It's like, man, why are you judging? Like, you should be watching stuff on YouTube at twice the regular speed. This is what your purpose in life should be.
So again, Ib's going to gain the 300 from Saryuya. Judge is yet again looking at that hand of nothing.
Yeah, he's shuffling it. Sometimes you hope that while you're shuffling
It
it,
changes,
suddenly
yeah.
changes. Yeah, it's like, oh man, I completely missed that hand trap that I had. But now I shuffled over it for the fourth time, and now I'm going to be ready to drop it.
Yeah, and I'm going to do it.
I'm going to drop the hammer on you, man. After that third shine ball hits the field.
Well, the 6th shine ball at this point.
So Thomas is obviously going for a shine ball OTK here.
He's taking full advantage of us providing enough dice for him to track all of these 300 attack boosts.
Yeah, that's probably why he's playing this weekend. He wanted to get all the different dice, so just so he could do that.
We may at some point see the Link 3 World Chalice coming out here.
Ningosu.
Ningersu, able to draw cards for each of the co-linked World Chalice monsters.
That's
when it's
much better
summoned.
than Sairyu.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
don't even have to
Saryuya.
put any of them
Saryuya.
back.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're completely free.
yeah, exactly. It's much better. Why isn't everybody playing that card instead?
So very specific requirements.
It's a Link 3 that you can only use Link monsters for the materials.
Okay, that sounds a bit hard to come up with. Yeah, Thomas he's well on track, showing us what this can do.
Yeah, here's a firewall.
Mm-hmm.
And the effect of Saryuya to special summon the Gameciel from his hand. Now, Gameciel on-field effect. Once per turn, you can remove either 2 or 3 kaiju counters.
Yeah.
Can we bring that one up? When a card is activated, negate it and banish it.
2.
Just 2 counters.
Yeah, and anti-spell fragrance to boot.
And there's no. Is that a once per turn?
No.
Okay,
Oh,
so
wow.
he's got 5 counters at the moment, so that means 2 negations.
Pretty sure, yeah, you can just do it
No,
as long as
there
there's
is no.
counters.
It's just during
Yeah.
either player's turn when your opponent activates a card or effect. Okay, so 2 negations. And an anti-spell fragrance, and that is it. Thomas did it. He finally showed us what World Chalice can do. It's 1-1 between the Netherlands and Greece. Wow. That was a very long turn 1, but in the end it all turned out rather well for
Yeah,
Thomas.
I think he's feeling like he can happily lose this match now. He's done that.
He's like, I've done my part.
I've achieved what I needed to achieve.
Are you happy that the World Chalice deck does something now?
Yeah, I'm absolutely happy. Honestly, it did not disappoint in this one. Also, we've seen somebody like go for big link monsters, and then there was a purpose. They
Yeah.
they didn't just do it because they could. They were like, I'm doing this because there's a reason,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna show you that reason.
I just need to find a really good magical musketeer player now, and then we can convince you of all these decks.
Did Georgior have nothing to like battle this? I mean, he did have one kaiju. He had a Gameciel of his own.
Thomas had 2 negates and well, so he had
But he cannot negate the Gameciel, can he? Because you would just tribute the opponent's Gameciel, but that's still a Firewall Dragon.
You know, you still can use the effect. Even if your opponent Kaiju, well, you can't give your opponent another Kaiju anyway.
The counters aren't on the Gameciel, they're on the field spell.
Oh, right.
Possibly there could have been some play involving if he chose to summon the Gameciel to his own side of the field. Tomas controlling a Kaiju, he would have been able to special summon the Gameciel in an attack position on his own side. At that point, if he were able to force the negation from Thomas's Gameciel, he would be able to chain the effect of his own, removing 2 more counters from the waterfront and banishing the first Kaiju.
Yeah, the counters can be removed from anywhere.
From anywhere on the field, yeah, it actually says that. So, but I think he didn't have a way to force the negation. Or he could have tried, but also I think that's not an obvious play.
Yeah,
that's not something where you're like, oh, okay, this is that situation that came out in playtesting 15 times, where I have to summon my own Kaiju when the opponent has one. That's like...
Yeah, and Kaiju waterfront with 5 counters.
Yeah, and Kaiju waterfront, yeah, of course.
I think the only line of play there was maybe to summon his own Gameciel, attack into the enemy Gameciel, and then proceed from there, maybe.
Thomas's Gameciel was in defense position, so...
Oh, okay, so there you go.
That was
I actually forgot where it was.
Okay, so in that case, it seems like he was pretty locked down.
There may have been options involving Candina searching for another Licorice, but all of this is subject to interaction from the Firewall Dragon, which is co-linked.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So Tomas he was looking over 3 copies of Mind Control there, but I think they go... I'm not sure.
No, Mind Control definitely going in, because Tomas is he's going to assume that he's going to go second here, and Mind Control is great. It just gives you an extra monster to turn into more World Chalice monsters.
So they do go in, right, like you said. Okay, so who's your favorite going into that last game?
I think the favorite for me is probably George. He's going to be playing first with Trickstars. He has lots of trap cards in the deck. We see no hand traps from Tomas. It's likely that George is able to set up what he needs and just have a couple of traps to back it up. But for me, it'll also come down to what kind of hand we see from Tomas. We've seen the 2 ends of the spectrum here in Game 1 and Game 2.
That's very
wow.
Oof. He just drew into his side deck.
Okay, so unless we see Gem Knight Garnet being drawn for Tomas, he certainly has what he needs to start making some plays. But will he have to do that through traps, or will it be an open board for him?
So in case you're wondering, the cards in hand for Georgior are not the cards he's currently holding. That is still like the leftovers from last round. However, the cards in play, cards in hand that you can see for Tomas, which is updating hopefully very soon. It's 2 copies of Mind Control, Emergency Teleport, World Chalice, Guard Dragon, and Brilliant Fusion. That is currently what he has in hand.
The Mind Control isn't once per turn, by the way, so he can just take multiple opponent monsters.
Yeah, Mind Control is a card that was printed before that whole once per turn thing. Yeah. Okay, so we see Pot of Desires for Georgior. He does also hold on to Cosmic Cyclone, Anti-Spell Fragrance, Ghost Ogre, and Snow Wrap, and Trickstar Licorice.
I think he's just drawn into a Candina with the Pot of Desires.
Yeah, definitely a Candina there.
Okay, now we got the current cards on the screen again, guys. So you're just as up to date as we are.
Anti-Spell Fragrance for George is going to be really big here. We see most of Thomas's hand consisting of spell cards.
Yeah.
Tomas will be able to chain the Emergency Teleport to the activation of the Anti-Spell. That might let him squeeze something in around it, but it's going to be tough without access to Mind Control or Brilliant Fusion until he finds an out.
It certainly is an emergency
This
as
is
well.
the funniest thing when somebody a Trickster Candina is being summoned and Tomas is acting like, yeah, I'm just going to check my hand traps. It's like, no, I didn't have one for this one. Just this once. Just this
one time.
Yeah, you can go ahead.
I will allow it.
Yeah.
He does have Effect Veilers in his side deck, so they may have been put in for this
okay.
matchup.
Fair enough. I don't think I saw them, but yeah, it's a good point.
I think Anti-Spell's just going to blow this game out completely. Unless Tomas draws. Is Tomas playing any back row removal? Playing any Cyclones?
Not in the main deck.
And also not in the side
neither
deck.
in the side deck.
Okay,
Oof,
yeah.
Okay.
I think this game is going to be completely won by Anti-Spell Fragrance.
Let's see if he can surprise us. Tomas is allowed to draw for his turn, and there's going to be the flip of ASF.
If we see something like a Venus, then access to Ningersu is able to send the anti-spell directly to the graveyard.
Yeah.
The second face down card, in case you're wondering, for Georgior is Cosmic Cyclone.
Yeah. Tomas looks like he has a plan here.
Cosmic Cyclone won't do a great deal until the anti-spell gets hit, and then we might see the Brilliant Fusion coming out.
Yeah, Tomas really needs to get rid of that card. Okay, so far so good. What do you think? What's the chat gonna be rooting for here? You think World Chalice?
I think so. Summons the World Legacy World Chalice.
And the effect of Imduk, when it's sent to the grave, summons Lee from the hand.
Yeah, I think he's going to be able to get up to Ningersu here. I can't remember all the name of the World Chalice cards. I only remember what we called them before they had names.
the working titles.
Yeah, his name is Randy. Auram, that's his name. It's Randy and Stan.
Can we pull up the effect of Auram?
Auram's really good. He gets to swap. He gets to swap out one of the cards in his linked zones, one of the zones he's pointing to, with another World Chalice monster in the graveyard. I think actually maybe just be another monster in the graveyard.
Yeah, you contribute one World Chalice monster this card points to, like you said. Target one other monster in your graveyard, special summon it to your zone this card points to.
Yeah. So the key part with him is you're able to get back, you swap a monster that you summoned from Imduk, special summoning from the hand, which is generally going to be a normal monster or something not that great, and then you swap it for an Imduk, and then you're able to use the Imduk and Auram at the same time to link summon and continue your combo.
All right.
Okay.
It's interesting, like, Thomas's line of plays was opened by just an emergency teleport.
Yeah.
It's like the only card he needed to get this whole thing going.
Yeah, he was reliant on having World Legacy World Chalice, though. That's actually been massive.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, Ghost Ogre is completely crushing. It's essentially entirely negates the effect of Auram because he doesn't point to a zone anymore, so he can't actually summon something. The way that effect works is he has to be pointing to something on resolution, and he isn't. He's in the graveyard. So.
Yeah.
But here, it hasn't actually ended up too badly from Tomas, despite that Ghost Ogre.
Yeah.
True.
We
True.
see these World Chalice normal monsters, just by having more attack than Trickstar Licorice, able to clean out the board. One of the biggest weaknesses
1800.
of the Trickstar deck is inability to deal with any number of attack points.
Yeah.
Any number.
Yeah.
So, and now Tomas is going to set all of those spell cards. He's
Yeah.
very likely going to see another turn. He's just going to lose one mind control. That is
fine.
not too much of a problem if you have a second one set.
I think that Tomas is going to have to wait. He should really think about waiting an extra turn with Baguska out here to try and generate a little more advantage. Depends.
It will depend a lot on what he draws for the turn. He has access to many resources through Brilliant Fusion, but only once Baguska's left his extra monster zone.
Yeah, there's a lot this relies on. I must say I forgot that Light Stage was going to be able to start taking out those back rows one by one as well. So Tomas is actually not going to be left with a lot on his turn. So that's much worse than I thought.
Baguska is basically the spirit animal of any commentator.
Yeah, it is.
This is how we feel at the end of a long day. This is the Yu-Gi-Oh card I'm most jealous of.
Just imagine if Baguska had to wake up in 6 hours after he'd just fallen asleep.
Yeah,
that would be really sad.
Calling it.
He would be a terribly tired tape here.
Yeah.
Yeah, that second day of coverage is not going to go so well.
No, exactly.
We've all got pillows under the desk.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish. All right.
I'm trying to think of an alliteration that's like terribly tired tapir for something commentator, but I just can't think of anything. Come on, Tom, I'm sure you can think of something.
No, I'm trying to watch the game.
Oh, this is more important. You got to think of awesome alliteration instead.
Crazy crushed commentator.
Yeah, it doesn't get the same message across.
Not quite. I'm working on it.
Okay, let's think about it.
The actually attentive analyst.
Ooh.
What was it again?
You missed it.
What was it?
Actually, attentive analyst.
Ah, okay. That's pretty nice. Doesn't describe that we're tired though.
You should be careful though, because there's a very good chance that this is going to be released as a Yu-Gi-Oh card, and you're just going to be left out of all the licensing fees.
Trademark.
Yeah, somebody's like, "Oh, I got this. I got this." Just after, when I'm done with this thing that is a toaster and a sheep at the same time, then I'm going to get on that one. All right, so the game has basically turned into a stalemate of sorts, with both players biding their time a tiny little bit. Wouldn't be surprised if Kiwi is just going to have a show up very suddenly.
So Thomas has swapped out his Baguska there, and now his cards are back online. He can start moving in with his plays. He has access to the Brilliant Fusion. There's really a lot that he has on his side here. What's the face down card on the other side of the board?
There is Scapegoat.
Shell, yeah.
Okay, so for here, it will be really crucial for Thomas to force enough damage onto the board that he can get that Scapegoat to be activated to stay alive, rather than in the end phase and threaten a Borreload Dragon next turn.
It can't be activated anyway because of anti-spell fragrance.
Ah, of course, yes. Even the following turn, it's unable to be activated. It has to wait until the player that sets its next turn.
Yeah, so you can't play it in the end phase and do some crazy link plays anyway. He's going to have to wait
In that
quite
case,
a long time.
it's really not looking good for Georgior.
Yeah, the Scapegoat's actually more than useless at this stage. He's
Scapegoat
essentially
and
having to wait like 3 turns to...
Scapegoat and anti-spell fragrance is not a combo.
No, it's a number, in fact.
I wouldn't be surprised if we just see Thomas summoning enough things to push for game.
Oh my god. This could be the first time ever that we see a
World
World
Chalice.
Chalice deck win in a feature match.
The dream is alive.
I just imagine there is a World Chalice player who won in a feature match before, and he's like, "What, you forgot about me?"
That would be rough.
That would be rough.
Sorry if you are at home thinking that right now.
I cannot imagine that to be the case.
Well,
You're going to
Yeah.
get an angry letter.
yeah.
Yeah.
Send it on a postcard to the
written.
same place that we get all the other postcards.
It's
If you just send it to us. That'd be great.
PJ is going to work through that.
I get them all the time. I get loads of postcards.
Fan
it's-
mail.
Yeah, it's great. It's really great. People they draw pictures and things. It's good. Or ask questions. I generally forget them though. There's too many to bring.
Yeah,
to the
that's
events.
understandable. All right, so Thomas is still on his little train of making crazy little combos.
He has 2 normal summons here and a handful of cards and graveyard full of resources. I don't think
and
there'll
damage
be
juggler.
any struggle for him to get enough damage.
Is he? I haven't actually seen Thomas's deck list. Is he playing the full Perform Age package with Damage Juggler, Hat Tricker, and Trick Clown?
There's 1 damage juggler, 1 hat tricker.
He's playing Hat Tricker. Okay,
I don't
wow.
think there's any Trick Clown.
Oh, okay.
Just Damage Juggler and Hat Tricker.
Oh, okay. That's gonna be That's a little bit worse than if he did have the Trick Clown, because
Well, if he'd had the Trick Clown, we
Yeah,
would have
we would've
likely
seen
seen
it.
it with the Brilliant Fusion.
yeah, exactly.
But Hat Trick is still a good search.
Yes.
He's not going to struggle to special summon that from the hand.
Yeah. Yeah, I just think one of these normal summons definitely should be on the Damage Juggler, because that's essentially 2 monsters.
So how much of that is playing through what you've done before, and how much is you actually have to think on the spot right here? Is that all your regular moves?
Yeah, a lot of World Chalice is you got to really think on your feet as to where you're going with it.
Okay, so we didn't see a gigantic swing here.
I'm actually really surprised that we didn't see more things coming out there. Perhaps
How many Arams does he play?
the extra deck has been exhausted. But
Uh,
no, we
1.
didn't see any other plays this game, really, did we?
No, it's been like a
the Aram is really key to the plays.
yeah, it's been a bit of a lockdown with that hand trap earlier, and that anti-spell fragrance, of course. So not much has happened so far. And Georgior is also very low on cards, of course. He's got a Candina and a Trickster Reincarnation in hand.
Yeah, the Aram is so key to the combos that, yeah. I think Thomas would be really enjoying having more than one right now.
I think that's very fair to assume, yeah.
I think George might be speaking about slow play to Kiwi here.
Yeah, to be fair, there was only 1 card he could play in his hand. So.
But at the same time, we saw Thomas taking a bit of time with his turn, and the policy document says you have to make your moves at a reasonable pace regardless of the complexity.
Yep. Yeah, the number of options are definitely taken into account, but I can't speak for individual judges.
You also have to put yourself in Kiwi's position. If he hands a warning to Thomas, he's going to be hated for the rest of his life when they work together in a judge team.
But that shouldn't be coming in. The
No, that
judges
should not. That okay,
rule
I was
evenly.
right. I should.
That's the joke.
I should add that. Yes, I was not serious. Yeah, just in case the thought police is on me again.
Okay, damage juggler. That's pretty fair. That's going to stop Lilybell's effect. That's actually a really great usage of damage juggler right now. That's phenomenal.
Yeah, Thomas is quite proud of himself. He's
Unless,
like,
does Lilybell say you got to inflict damage?
I
It
think
is,
it's
right?
if it inflicts damage
Yeah.
by a direct attack.
Yeah, I think it must be.
No,
there's
just when it inflicts battle
when it
damage.
Yeah.
inflicts damage.
There was no damage.
Yeah. Oh, I enjoyed that far too much. we don't really see the perform mages. We saw them back when the ice cream was legal, but
Back when the ice
Flush
cream was
fire.
thing.
Flush Fire, that's the one.
Sounds like when you were like 12 years old before you had your second teeth or something.
Yeah, the
Back
ice
then,
cream.
ice cream was legal.
Yeah.
Before your parents decided, nope,
No more ice cream.
no more ice cream for the rest of your
It's
life.
too
What
strong.
dystopia are we living in?
Yeah, ice cream is too powerful. You can't have ice cream.
So reincarnation here, taking out the searched hat tricker, but also turning that brilliant fusion, which was completely unplayable, potentially into a live card.
Oh dear.
Potentially.
Yeah, he drew another World Chalice, World Legacy, which is World Legacy, World Chalice, sorry.
Come on, Thomas. You have to have this. I mean, there's still a scapegoat face down. Let's not forget about that.
Mm-hmm. It's been face down for a century now.
That is true. We haven't seen a scapegoat face down for that long. Usually these sheep are not known for hiding.
Yeah.
They
Oh wow, that's a cool play. He used the effect of I can't remember her name. The
Eep was it?
no, it's I've forgotten her
I
name.
think we don't
Is it
have it
Lee.
here.
Yeah, Lee. To use her graveyard effect to tribute the World Legacy World Chalice from the field, to then trigger its effect when it was tributed to summon 2 World Chalice monsters from his deck, as you can see now.
So now we have an army of Lee.
Yeah, and he would have also got the effect of Lee, which you can see him adding to his hand.
Yeah, this deck definitely has some crazy combos.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And by the way, for the first time ever, Thomas has some interaction on his opponent's turn with an effect veiler. We thought it could not
Yeah.
happen, but here we go. He's proving us wrong.
It's actually fairly big as well, because he can just effect Veil the Lilybell in main phase, and then it's basically useless.
Well, the World Chalice Fairies, Lee, just having 2,000 defense is a really big problem for the Trickstar deck.
Yeah. So yeah, he's going to get to normal summon the other one. Ah, no. Yeah, he already summoned World Legacy World Chalice. I did wonder.
Nice try.
Thomas has just realized, oh dear.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
at the same time, he's sat on monsters with 2,000 defense. He has no real reason to be scared, because he doesn't know about that scapegoat just yet.
Yeah, that's true.
Maybe he's aware that there might be
It's-
something waiting.
Proxy beatdown time.
I have a feeling that Proxy Dragon is going to be a bit unfaithful.
I agree. Borrowload is a
It's a card.
yeah, convincing. Thomas shrugs. That's disappointing for him. Oh, we have the Hippo Carnival tokens. That's great. I like them.
Yep.
They're dancing hippos. What's not to love?
There's nothing not to love. All right.
So we see Mrs. Radiant and a couple of Link Spiders may come down here. George may decide that he just wants to summon his Radiant and the Link Spiders and push for some damage.
That's true.
It'll potentially end the game quicker than going for the Borrowload here.
Yeah, that's true. But can he see that line of plays, or is he going to be stuck in the thought of...
He's got no follow-up, or am I mistaken here? I mean, he's got the anti-spell fragrance, and that is it, right? There's
Yeah, that's all he needs, so he's going to have a huge...
So we see the Effect Veiler taking down the Lilybell there. That may have just saved Tomas from dying this turn.
Yeah.
So he was going to be taking a whole load of damage here, and one Licorice may have been enough to seal the deal. So he takes 100 from the first Link Spider, 1900 from Mrs. Radiant is 2000, a further 15 from the second Link Spider is 35. He'd take 1000 from the Lily Bell with the light stage in play, and then that would be an 18 on top of that if he could get back a Licorice. So I think that Effect Veiler might have just kept him in the game.
Oof. Tomas is hanging by a thread.
I think he needs Exodius.
Yeah, he needs something big. Something like, oh, Raigeki wouldn't even help because of that anti-spell fragrance. Okay, let's... Oh, yeah. More bad news. Just what we needed.
What outs does he have, Tom?
Not Foolish Burial. Yeah, you say Exodius would have been a good shout, but there's not a lot left in his deck at this point, and obviously the Foolish Burial can't even be played this turn.
No.
I think that's going to be it for this match, unless there's some sneaky World Chalice effects in the grave.
Let's see. Tomas seems to have a plan.
Yeah. Well, he can use World Legacy, but that's not going to help.
Oh, I did draw the Foolish, yeah. Yeah, so it's...
If anti-spell fragrance wasn't there, then there'd be definitely things to be done. Okay.
All right. The ultimate going down in style move. All right. Tomas sends his monster into the Borreload Dragon. He sees the writing on the wall and says, let's call this a day.
An honorable death.
I've had one good duel. Okay, guys, let's talk about it in our post-match analysis. You've just seen round 9 of YCS Bochum 2018, where Georgior Kotogluo from Greece is proving again that the Greek players are not to be messed with. They are really, really competitive. He went up against Tomas Tuvillo from the Netherlands, who was playing World Chalice. In the first game, we saw what we very often see when we invite World Chalice over to the feature match. It was a beatdown by Trickster, and a beatdown of sorts, with Tomas not having the strongest opening hand, Georgior dropping a hand trap, completely shutting down Tomas, and then on his following turn, he dealt
7,400, 200 in the draw phase, completely invalidating the Venus that was drawn for turn. The perfect card for the World Chalice deck, but not if you don't have enough life to pay.
That was the perfect anti-card moment.
Yeah, so basically that was the first game. It was over in a flash. So we went to the second game, and this was when we were saying, okay, are we finally going to see what World Chalice can do? And Tomas did not disappoint. He had a very big opening turn.
Yeah.
He went through combo, and he even had, what's his name again, Sarua, that wasn't completely wasted.
No,
like
that was a great chance.
We had the Tomas seal of approval on a Sarua play. He said, yes, this was a good use of this card.
Yeah.
And he even ended up with, he could have even gone for a World Chalice card that says just draw 3 without do anything back. So, yeah, that was really impressive. That was really cool. In case you guys are not familiar with World Chalice, just watch the second game, and for the first time ever on the stream, you're going to see what this deck is capable of. It was a bit of a different story in the third game, however.
Yeah, the third game was
rough.
Almost definitely rough for the World Chalice.
The anti-spell fragrance from Georgior on his first turn almost completely shut down Tomas. It looked like he might get out of there with an emergency teleport. That he was quick on his feet to think about that. He was like, oh, wait a second.
Yeah, I think he did so much with just that emergency teleport.
Yeah, it's true.
So much.
So if it weren't for that anti-spell fragrance, I think that Tomas would have won this, even though that's
I think so. I absolutely think so. He had so much in his opening hand there that he could have done. Yeah.
Right, and in that last turn, of course, with the Foolish Burial, that could have provided some outs.
Yeah, again, it was. I think this game all came down to that anti-spell fragrance.
Right.
They did.
So
I've just had some information, by the way, that our second feature match is now 1-1.
Okay.
So we can bring over for the final game.
We can actually move that in. Okay, guys. In that case, don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back. We're just going to move our current European champion, Samir Bashir, to the feature match table, and then we're going to continue our coverage for round 9 of YCS Bochum. We're going to take a very quick break, and we're going to be right back.